you ever have any regrets in life? What's your biggest regret? I actually did a little bit of research and just trying to learn about the kind of regrets in life that people have, and I discovered some common threads. And there's actually some top regrets that people experience typically later in life. And they're regrets like time wasted. People just regret wasting time. And the second one is, well, it's kind of similar or connected to it, and that's they regret that they worked so much and actually spent not nearly enough time with their families. And the third one, I think, it's just something that we all experience, and that's that people just regret having worried too much in their lives. Now, in our culture today, I think there's some additional things that people regret, and I know this just from talking with and working with people. And one regret is people to say all the time, I wish I hadn't posted that thing on social media, or I wish I hadn't said that to that close person, or maybe I wish I just hadn't said it the way I said it. Well, have you ever heard of this phrase called buyer's remorse? Well, guess what? That's a regret too. And I'm not talking about, well, I wish I hadn't bought that package of gum. I'm talking about big deal purchases that so often we regret making after we've made the purchase and now there's nothing that we can do about it. Well, I've done that myself, I'm sure more times than I'd care to count. Well, guess what? You actually in life can have fewer regrets. And there's a secret to that. And the secret to fewer regrets is actually hidden inside of the decisions that we make. And if we can learn, you and I, how to make better decisions, we can actually experience fewer regrets. Well, my name is Dan, and I'm the campus pastor of our TCC Clearfield location, and I'm really excited to be with you today to kick off this new series, Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets. Now, some of you may not know that TCC, we are actually a North Point partner church. We're actually one of only 68 churches across the country and even around the world that enjoys this partnership. Now, we've had a number of different networks and partnerships that we've been a part of over the years, and it's simply about helping us to be better as a church and better leaders, better spiritual guides in the life of our church and community. And among the things that we enjoy and the benefits that we have are things like authentic relationships with other like-minded churches and church leaders. And we actually receive additional personalized networking and even coaching that goes along with that. And have access to some amazing resources like our Kids Rock or our Velocity curriculums or even some creative ideas and resources. We have access to these things. Now, the insights and the principles in this series, Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets, has been born out of, well, this partnership that we enjoy. And we've been learning some things that have been so helpful to us in our leading in life as a church that we just wanted to share these insights with you. Now, the secret to better decisions. It's actually an often overlooked relationship between good questions and good decisions. And if we can learn how to simply ask these good questions and answer honestly, especially to ourselves, and the decisions that we make, act on those decisions, we're actually going to have fewer regrets. Now, just so you don't think this whole deal is one of those sort of self-help series, I want to tell you right on the front end that this is built on the foundations of God's truth. There's this guy named Solomon. In fact, he was a king. He was the third king of Israel, and he lived about 3,000 years ago. Now, Solomon is arguably considered by many people for 3,000 years now to be the wisest man who ever lived on this earth. And sadly, Solomon didn't even follow his own wisdom, which is actually given to him by God, because guess what? He's a human being. And late in his life, he actually strayed from his own wisdom, and he didn't finish well. Well, he wrote some books in the Hebrew, what we call the Old Testament. And among those books was the book of Proverbs. Now, proverb, Well, proverb is simply a short, pithy statement that reveals a truthful principle by which to live our lives. And making better decisions, it's really important so that we can have fewer regrets. But guess what? It's also important because making better decisions, well, your decisions actually determine the direction and the quality of your life. I want you to think of your decisions as kind of a steering wheel that guides or sets the course for your life, much like the steering wheel of a car sets the course or direction of a vehicle. Your experiences in life actually follow your decisions. You are where you are right now because of the decisions that you have made. Now, I know you're going to push back on this a little bit. And some of you are thinking right now, Dan, hey, I'm at where I'm at right now because of the decision that somebody else has made that impacted my life. Well, that's real. And I get that, and it's true. Because you see, you are not the only person that's impacted by your decisions. Just like somebody else's choices has impacted your life, your decisions impact. Well, they impact the direction and quality of somebody else's life too. In fact, private decisions, well, they can actually have a very public outcome. So you are where you are. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. And it's not where you're at that counts for tomorrow. It's the response that you give to where you're at, the decision that you make. And we all know that a response, well, it's just better than a reaction. A response is, well, it's a better path forward than a reaction is. A response is thoughtful and takes time. A reaction, well, it's thoughtless and it's immediate. You know, in my own life, when I have made a well-crafted, thoughtful, wise response to a circumstance or a decision or to a person, I haven't had to make very many course corrections or apologies, although that does happen. But I wouldn't want to count how many times I've had to apologize or make a significant course correction in my own life because of, well, an irrational, ill-timed, thoughtless, self-absorbed reaction. So when you find yourself where you are and you see a decision coming, I want to encourage you to simply do this. Push, pause. Push, pause. We need to slow ourselves down. Remember, your decisions determine the story of your life. So let me encourage you just to simply decide a good story. Decide a good story. Take the time to ask good questions and answer honestly, and then act with that decision. Now, I've known a lot of counselors in my lifetime. Haven't worked with them all. I've actually spent time with one, and good counselors know this, and great counselors, they apply this principle. They know that there's a connection between good questions and good decisions. Now, counselors, they opt for questions rather than direction in counseling with their client. And in their questioning, they're actually guiding their client to self-discovery, to a better path forward, which they know is more fruitful for their client. They're actually connecting the dots. These dots that so many of us never really learn how to connect. And that's the connection, the direct connection between good questions and good decisions. These two are directly linked. And they know that, well, a well-placed, appropriately timed, thought-provoking question leads to better decision-making. And guess what? That good questions actually leads us to better decisions. And that leads you and me to fewer regrets. And we've all been there, haven't we? We've all been in the regret side of a decision, and on the back side of that decision, we all seem to intuitively know. We just know I should have asked more questions, don't we? We often say, I should have gathered more information. Maybe I should have taken more time to process that decision. Maybe I should have pushed pause. Maybe I should have even accepted the questioning of another person who was trying to help me. But the truth is, if we're really being honest, we resist uninvited questions, don't we? And I think it's because we feel like we are being questioned instead of simply being asked a question. There's a difference, isn't there? And in our resistance, here's what happens. Our defenses go skyrocketing up, and our learnings, well, they go down. Our aptitude for learning goes down. It's just impossible for us at this point to receive new information, new insights. After all, we feel like maybe we're being judged or our character's even being questioned, especially as it relates to personal decisions that we have to make. Now remember, the decisions that you and I make, they impact the lives of others, not just our own lives. So why not invite another person to help you now to craft and ask well-placed, appropriately timed, thought-provoking questions? When it comes to progress in life, when it comes to moving forward and not backwards, when it comes to making better decisions, this is really hard to beat. What if? What if you knew the questions to ask ahead of time before you were faced with a decision? What if? What if you had a list of questions that could be kind of a filter for you to clarify the decision that you need to make? What if these questions could help you when you feel stuck and frustrated because you're stuck? What if these questions could actually kind of keep in check your emotions in the moment and reduce the risk of a reactive, irrational reaction instead of a thoughtful, wise, responsive decision? Well, we want to give you these questions. Now, not all of them. That's the purpose of this series. And we know that we can't give you all the questions because every single circumstance, every person, every decision is different. But we can give you 5 good questions, and they'll be coming in the weeks to follow. And they'll work if you'll simply ask, answer them honestly, especially of yourself, and act accordingly. Now, we all do this already. We kind of naturally have this filter of questions that we ask whenever we're faced with a decision, whether we ask them intentionally or subconsciously, out loud or in writing. We all have these questions, and I'm talking about questions like, will I enjoy this? Will it hurt me? Will anyone find out? Or my personal favorite, what's my excuse if somebody finds out? Some of the questions we ask already are actually helpful for us. Some of them, not so much. We simply want to give you a set of questions that we know will be valuable for you and for me as we seek to respond and make better decisions to experience fewer regrets. How do I know this? Well, remember Solomon? Solomon wrote hundreds of proverbs that we can find in what we know to be our Old Testament. And we're going to look at one of those proverbs today. Only one, because this one has such high value for you and I, and it sets a standard foundation for this entire series. It's found in Proverbs 27 and verse 12, and this is how it reads. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Now let me open this up for you and I. A prudent person is someone who's thoughtful and considering of a future. They're actually crafty and sensible, and they plan. So think about this. A prudent person who thinks about the future and plans, well, they can see danger or potential danger and take refuge. You see, a prudent person actually understands that all of life is connected today and tomorrow. They know that the decisions that they make today will impact the outcomes and even the options that they'll have tomorrow. They realize that their choices, their decisions of today will influence future relationships, even relationships that are not their own. The prudent person can see potential danger and they take refuge. Now, that doesn't mean they don't take risks, but the prudent, they calculate those risks and they mitigate the danger because of it. Now, the simple, well, they just keep going and they pay the penalty. Now, we all know that some of the best things in life are the simple things of life. Well, this is not that kind of simple. This is simple-minded. This is a person who is limited in their judgment or struggling with restraint. Now, people that know me will tell you that I'm a simple guy. I just am a simple guy. And I hope they're not referring to this kind of simple. I actually love this proverb. You see, the simple person, the simple-minded person, they actually live as if life is disconnected, even though it is connected. They might see danger or potential danger. They just keep on going. They might even know better if they took time to stop. They just don't take the time. They don't have that kind of restraint. They keep on going. They fly by the seat of their pants, and guess what? They pay the penalty. They pay the price. Now, these principles from this one proverb should be applied to the decisions of our life, starting with the big decisions. Now, here's what I know, and you all know this too. Many of us, maybe most of us, we actually apply these insights in the big decisions of our lives. We actually do push pause. We try to ask wise, good, better questions. And we try to answer honestly, and we base our decisions on those things. I have a question for you and I. What about those everyday, simple, itty-bitty small decisions that we make day in, throughout the day, and day out? Remember that steering wheel? If we don't pay attention in the small decisions, this little decision just gets me off course a little bit. And then I go a little farther. This little decision just gets me off course a little bit. And just a little bit farther. And before you know it, we are so far off course, we might not even know how to get back on course. So my question for you and for me is, what about those little decisions in our lives that lead to the big decisions? Those little decisions that teach us the skills of knowing how to process a giant decision. Are we willing to push pause on those two? Are we willing to ask well-placed, appropriately timed, thought-provoking questions? Well, it's important for us so that we can enjoy fewer regrets, but it's also important, and here's the why. You see, your decisions determine the direction and the quality of your life. They always have, and they always will. Now, here's what I want you to do for next week. I want you to learn this proverb. Let's take a look at it one last time. Here's the proverb. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple, well, they keep on going and they pay the penalty. Say that with me, would you? The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Let's say that one more time. The prudent, they see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. How about you? What about me? Will we live our lives as the proverb teaches us to be prudent and see danger or potential danger? Plan thoughtfully, wisely, ask questions, answer honestly, and then act on those? Or will we live a simple-minded life and just keep on going? And not only pay the penalty for ourselves because of our bad choices, but cause somebody else to pay a penalty too. You and I can make better decisions, and we can have fewer regrets. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for this one single proverb that teaches us such a massive truth principle on how we can live our lives, whether we follow you or don't. God, I pray that you will help us, give us the wisdom, the insights, the guidance to be prudent. That in the big decisions and the small, we would push pause. That we would ask good questions. We would answer them honestly. And the decisions we make and the actions we take would honor you and give better direction and quality to our lives and the lives of those around us. And we'll be very careful to give you all honor and praise for that. In your name, amen.